Just picture this, a city of massive stoned gateways and sacred temples, thriving at over 3,800 meters up in the Andes. And then it just vanishes, becoming one of South America's greatest archaeological enigmas.
So that's the story we're diving into today, the story of Tiwanaku. This was a remarkable pre-Inca civilization that popped up near Lake Titicaca. And it didn't just survive, it flourished for centuries, solving these incredible environmental challenges before its mysterious collapse around the year 1000.
You know, the very existence of Tiwanaku was a total triumph of ingenuity. Because to even think about building a city here, they first had to solve a huge problem: how to feed everyone in one of the toughest farming environments on the entire planet.
Okay, so they were living on the Altiplano, this high-altitude plateau with a really punishing mountain climate. You're talking seasonal floods and these intense crop-killing frosts that could hit at any time. I mean, on paper, building a huge civilization here, it just shouldn't have been possible.
But these guys, they had a solution. And it was a totally revolutionary form of landscaping engineering, known locally as zucca callis, or what we'd call raised fields.
And the scale of this whole operation was just immense. We're not talking about a little community garden here. They literally transformed over 122,000 hectares, that's an area bigger than New York City, into this massive food factory. And you could see it from the air. The patterns are still visible today. It's incredible.
The system itself was deceptively simple, but wow, was it effective. So the canals managed the water, right? They provided drainage during floods and they stored moisture for droughts. But the true genius, the absolute game changer, was how they acted like giant batteries for heat. The water would absorb the sun's heat all day and then release it slowly through the night, creating this warm microclimate that protected all the crops from that deadly frost.
So, with all that agricultural stability, they had the food surplus and the manpower they needed to build something truly spectacular. A breathtaking ceremonial center, a metropolis made of stone.
The core of the city was this big statement of power and cosmic alignment. You had the Acapana Pyramid, which wasn't just a building, it was a sacred man-made mountain, complete with these complex internal canals for water rituals. And right nearby, the Kalasasaya Temple acted as a celestial observatory, perfectly lined up with the solstices and equinoxes.
And then you get to a site called Pumapunku, and their engineering skill is it's almost unbelievable. The biggest single block of stone they managed to quarry and move is estimated to weigh 131 metric tons. To put that in perspective, that's like 90 cars.
And get this, they did it all without mortar, without any advanced metal tools, and without the wheel. Their stonework is just so precise. They created these complex, interlocking joints and perfectly smooth surfaces. The stones fit together so tightly you literally can't slip a knife blade between them. It's a feat of engineering that still has researchers scratching their heads.
So you might be wondering, why go to all this trouble? Well, these structures were way more than just architectural marvels. They were a physical expression of Tiwanaku's religion and power, and it all centered on one very powerful deity.
Meet the staff god. This was the most important icon in their entire cosmology. This was the being who's in charge of the forces of nature, the sun, the weather, the very fertility of the land, the whole shebang.
If you look at the famous Gateway of the Sun, which was carved from a single block of stone, you'll see the staff god surrounded by all these winged attendants. But the most interesting detail is right on the god's face. There are tears streaming down its cheeks. Now, this wasn't a symbol of sadness. It represented life-giving rain, the most precious resource imaginable in the high Andes. It was a direct link between divine power and their survival.
So you have to ask, if Tiwanaku had totally mastered its environment and built this incredibly powerful state, why did it all fall apart? Well, the answer seems to be a full-blown environmental catastrophe. It wasn't just one single event. It was a devastating chain reaction, like a series of dominoes falling. First, a really long drought hit, and the lake levels dropped. As everything dried out, the soil got saltier and saltier. Well, guess what loves salty conditions? Crop-killing pests, like potato cyst nematodes. This attack was the final blow, and their brilliant agricultural system just completely failed.
And you have to understand, this ecological collapse led directly to a political one. The entire power of the ruling class was built on the idea that they could guarantee a stable food supply, through their rituals and their engineering. When that system failed so spectacularly, their authority, their very right to rule, just vanished right along with it.
But here's the thing. Even though the city was abandoned, Tiwanaku's influence lived on. Its art, its religious ideas like the staff god, and its building techniques, they all profoundly shaped the empires that came later, especially the Inca, who actually saw the ruins as a sacred place of origin.
Today, the ruins of Tiwanaku are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and from those ingenious fields to its mysterious stone gateways, the city is this silent testament to a lost world that, for a time, mastered nature, but was ultimately reclaimed by it.
So, the story of Tiwanaku really leaves us with a powerful question, doesn't it? They engineered their environment for centuries, but in the end, they couldn't overcome a changing climate. It makes you wonder, just how resilient are our own complex systems today?